Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom. And today we welcome back Irvine Sloan. He is the founder and CEO of Navigating Gray. You will probably notice that I have his logo up in the upper right-hand corner, and that is for a very good reason. Irving is, as I said, the CEO of Navigating Gray, but he has a very interesting workflow that he works with. So, Irving, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. And I know I'm stumbling on words, but what you're doing is very unique. You have fractional employees, and you're kind of modeling it like the Uber model. So could you explain what that means?
Well, in full transparency, fractional employees aren't too revolutionary, but I think in this application they are. Specifically, we operate in this space of sustainability and social impact. We recognize that many of our clients don't have enough workers in this space, and quite frankly, I think it's because of the economic impacts aren't always clear. Sometimes people look at these spaces of sustainability and social impact as purely being social. However, there are economic impacts. And so what we do is we use a fractional workforce model to help give our clients a breadth of experience that is truly needed in these dynamic spaces. So you imagine it's very difficult for corporations or cities to hire 10 folks who are focused on sustainability who all have these individual unique skill sets. We kind of make it a little bit simpler for them by working with us. We use fractional employees. So we use people who traditionally have full-time jobs during the daytime, but still are kind of lacking some of that need for doing stuff in their community, doing stuff that are more impactfully driven. And so we hire those folks in the evenings. We call them gray consultants because, again, being part of Navigating Gray, they work what we call the gray shift. And the gray shift is, again, the after-hour shift where they get together with other colleagues in a professional setting. They're not necessarily driving the Amazon truck. They're more working in their traditional professional environment, and we give them opportunity to make an honest living and contribute back to society and something that's important to them.
It is so important that people understand the necessity of this kind of model because, as you said, most people in the sustainability world, climate world, they have a passion for it. It's not that they want to make a bunch of money and travel the world. They actually have a passion to do something, do the right thing, do the good thing. Now, everyone has a specialty. Some people are experts in energy. Some people are experts in agriculture. Some people are experts in workflow. Some people are experts in DEI. And for a company to be able to harness that in one individual is completely impossible. I'm not even going to say mostly impossible. It is completely impossible. So having a multitude of people that can come in and work on a project for a client and pick the best people from all of those industries, pull them together. That's, in my opinion, I've never heard of anyone doing that. And I do find that rather revolutionary.
I appreciate it. It's just, again, for me, it's an absolute necessity. Again, going back to our goals of trying to help companies understand their socioeconomic value as it relates to sustainability and social impact. And socioeconomic means the social value and some of the economic value. But it's hard to articulate what the economic value sometimes is in these spaces. Oftentimes, leaders in these companies, they're not necessarily economists, they're not necessarily statisticians, they're not data scientists. They're really social people. They really are doing it at from the bottom of their hearts, but they need a little bit of help and support trying to clarify what the socioeconomic impact is. And again, it's almost like a chicken or the egg. Until you can define what the economic impact is in your business, I can tell you most organizations, it's hard to get additional headcount.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Until you can justify it, it's hard to, unless you can demonstrate that socioeconomic impact, is very difficult. And so we help firms through our process understand their socioeconomic impact through our gray consultants and through our fractional employee model, in hopes that they will actually be able to hire people themselves, right? So we're kind of an intermediate step in many cases where we allow people to see this socioeconomic impact through the use of our teams, and then they can take that to their leadership and say, hey, we are truly driving this impact, not just social, but also economic impact. And therefore, they can justify getting people on their own individual teams. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the fact that, a lot of companies simply can't afford to hire the big alpha consulting firms that charge thousands of dollars an hour. In addition to that, having, multitudes of people that they would have to hire in-house. This is actually a really good model to leverage. I mean, I love the word leverage that you also use quite frequently in this, and using people that have these specialties. But one of the most important things that you offer that a lot of people don't know about is this employee engagement. So you actually offer service where employees of a company can actually feel more connected to their CEO. And not by saying, well, the CEO worked here and he had this education and this degree. And it's a more personal level. They get to actually know the people they work with, which I think we've lost that talent in the last 10 years or so. We've lost that connection with employees and CEOs. Could you explain what that looks like?
Well, I think in general, all CEOs, including myself, we're trying to report to different stakeholders and meet these different commitments and obligations to these different stakeholders. And so, through our process, you get to engage with myself, you get engaged with other people. In many cases are executives at different companies. We also have our board of advisors who are pretty prominent folks who work at large corporations. And so, we kind of create this network for them as well. So in addition to, you working at your day job, you get additional experience that's really relevant in the evenings. And this experience, we always we kind of teeter around, what does an experienced associate look like in sustainability and social impact? Well, I can tell you that any experience, we welcome all experiences in different sizes. I'll say that we have kind of a bring a friend model, we like to say. So when we hire folks as great consultants, we also encourage them to bring someone with you, bring someone who may be a little bit junior, maybe someone's a little bit different than you, because part of that experience is also, trying to help the next generation succeed in this space. And quite frankly, in many cases, that the younger generations are equally as talented or equally as knowledgeable in these spaces. And so you really need a community of folks around you to really pull out that socioeconomic value, because you can't see it sometimes. And so by having this kind of community effect, you get to see different opinions, and you really get to embrace what diversity is all about, is diversity of thought, diversity of opinions, diversity of experiences. You get to bring it all together.
Oh, especially the diversity of lived experiences. I mean, people that from different backgrounds are going to have a perspective that, I may not see or they may not see, but also intergenerational. I do like that, because younger generation certainly brings a level of knowledge, just because they're the computer generation. They grew up with everything being online, so they see things one way. Those of us who were not raised in the internet world see things very differently. And bringing those two views together is actually very, very beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, I would say, being that my co-founder is 16 years old, I get to see it every day. And I think, what I've come to understand is that it's just a difference in language in many cases. We say things one way, they hear it another way.
Yes.
Or they say something one way, we hear it a different way. And I'm talking from a generational standpoint. I think by having this kind of fractional employee model, we get to kind of gain that level of insight with people from different industries who maybe be working in pharmaceuticals one day. Next day, you're working with someone who's in energy, but they're experts in their particular field. And they hear things differently, and they provide that additional context. One of my biggest sayings is that data without context is very dangerous. And so by having people from different, not only just industries, but also different skill sets as part of our fractional employee model, our great consultants, we get to get that additional context that sometimes our clients don't ever see. So we've got clients in the energy industry. It's very unlikely they're going to be that they've got exposure to someone who's been in retail, or exposure to someone who's been in medical. They get to see that aspect of it as well, which brings an even more holistic solution.
And one thing I always say is, let's refrain from jargon and acronyms, because each industry has their own language, and we're working on that, folks. We are working on that. We're trying to give you solutions. We won't get that away just yet, Irving.
Yeah.
But can we talk about, because everyone that you hire, it's fractional. This is 100% remote. So the flexibility is anyone, anywhere in the world can just pick up a couple hours a day, a few hours a week, whatever works for them, what works for you, and bring their expertise to the client. That's pretty, I mean, I know a lot of people are pushing back on the remote work, but this actually works out well.
Yeah, and I can understand why people do push back on remote work. It takes a level of trust
Yes.
in your employees that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. I think we don't necessarily have the level of relationships that we used to have with our coworkers in the past. But quite frankly, it's a model that is economically feasible to have people from around the world, not just in the United States, from around the world, working on these topics. Having people that are flexible, I think, is mutually beneficial. Again, a lot of these folks work full-time jobs, and a lot of them, they just want extra. They need a little extra money, right?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I would say the market for experience and really talented people and call it sustainability and social impact, diversity, inclusion, it's quite limited. I mean, I would say it's a small world. I would say it's small. We know one another, right? And so if this model becomes very appealing to specifically medium to small companies who just can't get access to those kind of individuals, right? Then maybe they're if they were to hire them, full time, you couldn't afford them. As being a startup company, we have to recognize costs as well, and we understand that you can't afford some of the most talented folks at a full-time rate. And so we look at it from, hey, can we afford some of those really talented people at a part-time rate? And because we built a model, a full model around it, where we understand how everyone plugs in the system, we can manage it. I think it's very difficult for firms who don't really have a full model around it and try to implement remote work, and then it kind of falls apart. And that's what we've seen, over the last few years, where companies say, hey, come back to work. We need you here. It's because they really haven't spent time developing what that operational model looks like. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I did love the fact that you mentioned in sustainability, we are a very small network of people. 4 years ago, when ESG 4 or 5 years ago, when ESG kind of became the topic du jour, all of a sudden, everyone and their brother hopped into this field claiming to be experts. And I'm sure you run into a few. I ran into one person in particular who said, well, I read a book. I'm an expert now. And I thought, that's not really how it works. You've been doing this for decades. I've been doing this for decades. We all kind of know each other. We all follow in each other's circles. So to the clients out there that want to hire Navigating Gray, please understand Irving knows who the experts are. He knows who he can trust. He knows who has the backgrounds, and he can figure out pretty quickly if someone is maybe embellishing a little bit, because that does happen. But since I brought up Navigating Gray and your services, could you outline just some of the things you can offer people that want to maybe retain your company?
Sure. So we've got 3 components to our company. The first part is our management advisory firm. It's a traditional consulting company. We help companies understand the strategic aspects of sustainability and social impact. But we very much so focus on how do you create socioeconomic value. We start there always. And so we've got a management advisory practice that works with clients, during the daytime. Those we call it kind of our day consultants. And they're supported by our gray consultants, the people in the evening, because again, we don't know everything. It's like a traditional advisory firm where you got people who are in customer facing, and then you have people who are in the background who are really experts in some of this work and really help put together the proposals and put together, the concepts. The second component of our company is our technology solution development group. And they're really about how do we actually translate that strategy to execution. So we take it a step further. We're not just a strategy, folks. We actually help you execute, and we execute in the form of technology solutions. So apps, dashboards, things that we can quantifiably, how we actually take that strategy and implement it. The last part of our company is our research and auditing group, and they're really about gaining proof, gaining evidence of this socioeconomic impact, which is, again, that's the full cycle. So on the backside, we hire people in the field. We call them actually zip code agents. They're a form of a fractional employee model, where basically we have people in the communities within a specific zip code capturing what the true socioeconomic impact looks like. Not what we talk about, but what it actually looks like. And again, that's a piece of our model that we feel like is different from anyone else, because we have people in the field capturing it at the zip code level. In order to really define your socioeconomic impact, you got to be able to say, what does it look like? I mean, all these things are big words. When we talk about jargon and ESG, what does it really boil down to? What does it look like in communities? And so that's where our research and auditing teams come in, and they kind of complete the circle. All of those inputs are put into our socioeconomic model, and that helps us define and predict if a particular activity is going to create socioeconomic impact. It's a very evidence-based, it's a very methodical-based concept. And that's what we believe is our true value, our true differentiator in the market.
And absolutely true. I mean, we're going to actually have a conversation on the zip code agents in our next interview. So stay tuned, guys. It's a really cool concept because you actually do need to see it to see what's happening, and going through the stages of not only strategy, but execution and then auditing. Auditing is important. You got to do that complete circle to see if what we implemented, if what we executed is actually happening. Is it making a change? Are there metrics we can measure? That's what most people don't kind of see, that third step being as important, but it's entirely vital to see if it's working.
Yeah, I would say, oftentimes in this space specifically, we see sustainability reports, impact reports. They're always written at a very high level.
Yeah.
And I say, it'd be more impactful if we got to really understand what that really looked like. Not summarized it, but what are examples where it actually, it shows up, and how have these communities been truly impacted? Our findings are that yes, some communities are being impacted tremendously, but there's still a lot of communities that are being left behind. And we want to highlight those opportunities and give those people an opportunity as zip code agents to highlight some of the things that are going on in their communities. So it's very apparent that, hey, this is what's really going on. Not to say we're not doing social good, but here's some things, opportunities for improvement in my community.
Oh, absolutely. Always focusing on the positive and always trying to make things better. And again, the zip code agents are extremely valuable for documenting that, which again, next interview, guys, we're going to talk about that. It's really cool stuff. But on that, Irving, how can people find you? What's the best way to reach you so they can retain your services and actually implement their sustainability plans?
So obviously go to our website, www.navigating-grey, Grey, and it's not spelled Gray, it's Grey.com. And so go to our website. There's a contact us form that you can fill out, or simply send me an email, or just look on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Shoot me a direct message, and I'll be sure to get back to you.
And you are easily found on LinkedIn, because if I found you, pretty much anybody can. So on that, thank you, Irving, so much. Thank you for your knowledge and your education, what you're doing. You are impacting and affecting change. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you for your time, Wendy.
Anytime, guys. I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice with Irvine Sloan of Navigating Grey. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.